Hey guys, welcome back. And in this video, we're going to look at setting up a basic hero title or hero image that we're going to put on the page. I'm going to explain what that's all about. We're going to set up our different text options as far as headings and paragraphs go. And we're going to just start playing around with some CSS just so you guys can start seeing what the CSS does and how it controls what's on the page. So when we left off last, we had just created this body text. We had changed the text to, I believe mine was Roboto. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set up a couple different attributes for, things like headings and paragraphs and stuff that we would use throughout the site. Now, if you remember in my last video, I had said that headings generally look better as serifs on website. So if I just go here into my HTML and I just put an H1 tag, which is short for heading 1, and I just say, this is a heading, like that, and I save it, you're going to see that what the browser is going to do is it's going to take sort of the default size, it's going to take a larger size because it's a heading, but just the default sort of size that it picks, and it's going to put that in there bigger. But I don't think, at least from my eyes, I don't think that that's any thicker of a font. I don't think it's any different because our CSS has told it here for the entire website. That's what the star means. Just always use Roboto 300, and that's exactly what it's doing. So what we wanted is we want to have some control over what headings look like so that every time we use a heading tag like an H1, and by the way, if you don't already know this, you can increase this number from H1 to, I believe it's H7. So that gives you 7 different sort of styles of headings that you can create, which is kind of fun. But we're just going to focus on the H1. By the way, when Google searches a page for content, what it always looks for is the H1. So the H1 should be descriptive. It should sort of be like, what is the page about? Always make sure you've got your information about the page inside of an H1 tag somewhere on the page so it knows what that page is all about. Anyways, that's not super important, but let's go back to our CSS and let's actually affect the H1 tag. And so what we need to do is outside of the curly bracket here, we need to put the tag that we want to affect. So we're going to put H1. So we put the HTML tag and a curly bracket, and that's basically telling it in the CSS that this, whatever we put in here, is going to affect every time the H1 tag is used. Now, hopefully you didn't close it. Maybe you did, but you can always head back to Google Fonts. And if you remember, I had picked 2 fonts. I had picked Merriweather and I had picked Roboto. So Merriweather is the font that I want to use for our H1s and like our headings in general. And so I am going to scroll down here and I'm going to find the Merriweather classes, which are here. I'm going to do the same little trick I did with Roboto. I'm just going to take the chunk here in the middle, and I'm going to copy and paste that in there. And that should, if I switch back to my tab, if I save that, oops, I always do that. I have to click this side and then save it. Yeah, now you're going to see that this has become Merriweather for the H1 tag. So you see the font has changed. We could go with a bigger font, maybe like a 500 or something, just because it's a thicker font. You know, it is a heading font, maybe 600. Regardless, you can kind of find a spot where you think it looks good, sort of, something that looks good to you. Okay? And as you can tell, this now affects the H1 tag. If we wanted this to sort of be a general statement where we kind of say that every H tag is going to use Merriweather regardless of which H we use, we could put a comma. We can go H2, H3, H4, and so on and so forth if you want. So you can define more than one tag if they all share the same properties. So that's a nice little thing about CSS. You can assign multiple attributes to multiple tags all within one block. All right, and that just saves you from having code that is redundant, code that just repeats over and over again. So save that. We now have our heading set up, which looks good. It looks really good. Another thing we can consider again, and I think it's just going to work and it's going to default to Roboto, but a very commonly used tag is the P tag, which stands for paragraph. And so we could put some lorem in there. I just typed lorem and hit enter, return, and now I will have a block of text which is inside of a paragraph tag. And once again, it looks exactly the same because it is reverting back to the default Roboto 300 normal that I had set for the entire document. So you can see that that is working inside of our paragraph tag, our P tag, and that is why that shows up. I can actually remove this line now and just have it inside of the paragraph tag, because technically that's more correct than just having the text in there without any tag whatsoever. All right, so as you can see, that is working and it's displaying correctly. Next, we're going to get into something a little bit trickier. We are going to set up what is known as a hero image. And a hero image is a picture that it's usually a very large dominant image that when you come to a website, it kind of draws you in. A lot of times it'll have some text telling you about, the website, or a little short description, whatever. We call that a call to action, where, maybe they have to click something, or it just kind of draws people in. And so we're going to set that up. And to do that, we are going to create a div, which is short for divider, I believe. I'll just double check that, but I believe div in CSS. Yeah, I believe it's short for divider. I always forget all. I don't I don't remember all the names, the short names for everything, but I know most of them. So div is a way that we can separate our website into sort of manageable pieces. Okay, and the way that you define a div is we're going to put this under the body here. We're going to put div, and I'm going to sort of introduce you now to classes. Okay, and classes is very, very powerful, and you're going to see why in a sec here. So we're going to say div class equals, it automatically puts the quotations. We're going to give it a descriptive name here so that we know what we're talking about. We're going to call it hero. And then I'm going to just close that. Now remember, we want the div to, or sorry, not, well, any tag. We want the tag to surround what we want it to affect. So I'm going to take this closing chunk here, just selecting it, and I'm going to cut it with Control or Command X, and I'm going to go down here under this paragraph tag that we had added. I'm just going to tab over, and I'm going to paste it, okay, just like that. Okay, so now the heading and the paragraph are within this hero class div, okay? That's going to allow me to do more with it shortly. Okay, but for now we have it inside of that divider called hero. I'm going to save it. You won't see anything change because we haven't told it to change anything. One thing I want to mention that is pretty common with websites is the body tag, which is put in by default, always has a little border, okay, a little margin. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little white margin, and it's on both sides, top and bottom. And let's say I was putting in a picture at the top of this website. That little margin is going to leave a white border, which is going to look really bad. So what I like to do is I like to go into my style sheet, and usually I would put this right after the all part of the site right here, but it really doesn't matter as long as it's in there. We're going to put body, curly bracket, top is 0, left is 0, Okay, so what this is saying is that the body will start in the top left corner, 0 and 0. The width of the page is 100%. So the body is always going to fill the entire page. And the height is 100%, like that. And then when we save that, again, we're not going to see anything change just yet, but this is going to set that block so that it fills the entire page. One other thing we can put in here is we could put padding 0, and I like to put px for pixels, okay, and margin 0 pixels. Okay, and now you'll see that that text moves over. It's right up against the side of the page. This is going to be important in a sec when we're making this hero box, okay? So make sure you've got that in there. And again, that ensures that the site itself is going to be right up to the edge on both sides. You might say, well, that's stupid because now the text goes right to the edge of the page. Don't worry about it. We're gonna set that all after. But for now, we want to kind of start with, think of it as a piece of paper. We don't want to start with a paper that's a little bit smaller with a white border. We want to start with a full sheet of paper. And by setting this right at the start, you're basically saying to the website, we want to use all the available space we possibly can. And this is how we do it. Okay, so top left corner, 0, 0. Width and height, 100%, 100%. Padding 0, margin 0. It's completely all the space possible. All right, so we save that. You can see it moves over. Great. Okay, so we have set up a class. We have set up our body. We now are ready. We've set up our headings, set up our paragraph. Everything's looking great for us to get started. In the next video here, I know I said I was going to do in this one, but I want to keep the videos kind of short. In the next video, we're going to set up our hero image, and we are going to start building this page, start making it look like something.